voters in the Democratic Republic of Congo are preparing to elect new leadership in an end-of-an-era poll on December 23rd. Climate change fuels innovation and a new generation of startup companies in Kenya. And highlights from the 2018 Maasai Olympics. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gidhu. You are in for Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Only weeks remain in the presidency of the Democratic Republic of Congo leader Joseph Kabila. He is due to step down after nearly 2 decades as the country's head of state. The election for a new president of the Central African nation is set for December 23rd. The 47-year-old Kabila is vowing to stay involved in politics, and in several recent interviews, he has left open the possibility of running for president again in 2023. Kabila's mandate as president ran out in 2016, but he refused to step down. And in recent years, the vote to replace him has been repeatedly delayed. Officially, the government has said it was due to conflict and logistical challenges. But the president's opponents have accused him of attempting to engineer more time in power. In August, Kabila tapped Emmanuel Shadary, a former interior minister, to be his successor, adding to the uncertainty of the election. Shadary has suggested that he will continue many of Kabila's policies. Last week, Kabila spoke to international journalists at his palace for a rare series of interviews about his future and the country's future. Now, starting today and over the next 2 weeks here on Africa 54, we're airing a series of video profiles on men and women of all ages and all walks of life in the Democratic Republic of Congo, talking about what they hope for their country and what they expect from the general elections. In this first episode of We Are Congolese, we hear from Joe Enuamata.
Pour les Congolais, ils sont patriotes moraux ou Mbokanae. Ils sont assez à l'aise dans Mbokanae. Ils ont des idées pour Mbokanae. C'est ça un Congolais. Donc, ils sont un maquila Congolais, né à Congo. C'est ça Congolais pour moi. Premier problème, non, étant artiste, pour bien bosser, pour dessiner bien, premièrement, il faut bien manger. Difficulté de ça, il faut chercher à manger, il faut le camouer, il faut le que l'homme mocha, des fausses huiles, bon, voilà premier point. Deuxième point, il y a le transport. Pour l'Ouananda, si vous travail, il faut transport, il faut la permanence toujours à l'heure. Mais des fois, il y a la non, il y a terminé arrêt. Des fois, il y a le transport, il y a le chamaillement, on passe par là pour le transport. Voilà, et là, on ouvre les essentiels dans le transport. Voilà. Et là, on a dit raté. Premièrement, on a manque de considération. Il y a différents domaines. On a comme artiste, on a besoin de voix, on a besoin d'opportunités. Voilà. Ok, non, éco-propulsion. Mais il donc on va rajouter la politique est essentielle pour la banque. Tandis que les gens ont besoin et besoin de payer pour promouvoir et leur besoin mais qui par donc ils ont pénal c'est là voilà. RDC, ils ont la famille. Les familles, ils ont le chef de la famille. Ils ont comme père. Ils ont ceux qui parlent de voilà. Bon, revenons un peu à la question. Non. Et là, on est sur le canal RDC. Le problème, pour nous, responsable, ils ont pas mon Konzambo. Ma Konzambo, quand il fallait. Na idée morale non, va comprendre peuple, qu'est-ce que le peuple veut, et là on va pour ça la peau, ma comme c'est madame. tellement makambo ezosala ezotambola malamu te. Donc mpo na ngai nalobaki non eza euti na bango, donc euti likolo quoi. Voilà. Kozala président de la République, pour nous, c'est essentiel. Et ça, pour résoudre le problème, il y a la première nécessité. En fait. C'est important pour moi. Étant petit peuple, qu'est-ce que ce petit peuple veut? Voilà un peu. Pour notre prochain leader, au Kambambuka, ça sera mieux avec le peuple. Parce que le peuple est né comme un président, parce que le peuple a voté bon. Et puis, ça va mieux, ça a besoin du peuple. De façon que, qu'est-ce que le peuple veut? Donc, pour moi, nous avons une élection, ils ont digne. Et puis, ceux qui ont pour nous, on a bien émergence, développement et voilà pour l'élection.
There is a new movement underway in Uganda that's seeking to change the country's political image through a national dialogue. Uganda's media reports the movement is set to begin on Tuesday through combined efforts by civic and religious leaders, with a vision to attain a peaceful end to the presidency of Yoweri Museveni. Joining me here in the studio is Erias Lukwago, the mayor of Kampala. Mr. Lukwago, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Now, your thoughts on this new movement, once it's launched tomorrow, what do you expect to see?
Well, from the word go, it's been a farce. It's an exercise in futility, because the political environment in Uganda cannot accommodate that kind of process. You know, we have had a president who has been in power for the last 33 years. He has ruled by the barrel of the gun. He's not ready to relinquish power. He has suppressed all forms of organized politics, and he doesn't tolerate anyone who opposes him, and he doesn't respect the rule of land constitutionalism.
Why would you not be a little bit optimistic, given that these are civic leaders, they are religious leaders, they are trying to reach both sides of the aisle, the government and the opposition, to see if there can be some cohesion between...
Well, it's not the first time there is an attempt to have a national conversation over the political crisis we are facing in the country. There have been initiatives before. We have had the international, the IPOD, Interpolitical Parties, whatever organization for dialogue, which has been in existence for the last 9 years. It has not come up with any tangible results. We have had things like a National Consultative Forum, and also those very leaders who are championing or spearheading this process, the religious leaders, the elders, civil society and other stakeholders have made similar attempts before. Different forums have been created. They have created all sorts of processes. But Mr. Museveni has no respect for such initiatives. And they will not come up to any logical conclusion.
So what do you propose should be the way forward? If there cannot be a national dialogue, what next?
You say the dialogue per se is okay. There's no problem. Actually, Ugandans across the board, across the political divide, would embrace a genuine national dialogue that is clearly structured, properly structured, with a clear agenda, with a program which is rolled out by all the stakeholders, all the parties, and it is not tailored to entrench a one-man's rule. We must be clear. We have made our point very clear that we must agree on who should pretend over the same.
So tell me
how the resolutions
from your personal
are going to be implemented.
Because yes. All you've told me is there's no way here. What do you see as the way?
What I see as the way is for the people to assert themselves. You know, we are talking about, the sovereignty of the people taking center stage. In this particular case, if it is to be a dialogue, it must be people-centered. yes, we can have a dialogue, but it must be people-centered, it must be clear on the agenda, it must be structured, and we must have a legal framework for the implementation of the outcome. But this one, which is meant to doing the international community, particularly the Americans here, they are intended to do a window dressing to create a smoke screen, to create a facade that Mr. Museveni is very accommodative, is tolerant, so that they can now appreciate that actually he is ready to listen to those who are opposing him.
Now, Mayor Lukwago, let's talk just a little bit about Saturday's event where Bobi Wine was, hotel was raided. What do we know of the reasons, or what's the situation with that?
Of course, those are daily occurrences in my country. It's the order of the day. Actually, what is happening, it's impunity reigning supreme. We have security operatives who are no longer working for the people of Uganda, who have no respect for the dictates of the law, but they are there preoccupied with regime protection. So anything perceived to be anti-status quo, anti-Yoweri Museveni, will be crushed with brutality. So they see the activities of the opposition, of the political leaders, including innocent activities like a political show by Honorable Bobi Wine and others, as a threat to Museveni's hold on to power. And they will always be crushed, and that's what is happening on a daily basis. Myself have suffered the same, and others in Kampala, you can imagine. As the Lord Mayor.
I wish we had a little more time to talk about your blueprint for the city of Kampala, especially the security situation, and even getting to speak to the president and have some sort of cohesion on what's going on there. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Well, most welcome. Thank you, Tom.
Erias Lukwago is the mayor of Kampala. Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir has become the first Arab leader to visit Damascus since the Syrian civil war began 8 years ago. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad greeted al-Bashir at the airport on Sunday, according to the state-run news agency SANA. Most Arab countries have closed their embassies in Damascus and condemned Assad for using overwhelming military force and failing to negotiate with the opposition. Syria was also expelled from the 22-member Arab League. No official reason was given for the visit, but SANA says the two leaders held talks at the presidential palace about developments in the region and in Syria. As the Syria war winds down in Assad's favor, some Arab nations have called for normalizing ties with Damascus and even of allowing it back in the Arab League. The impact of climate change is an increasingly pressing global issue, and a new generation of startups in Kenya is developing new technologies to combat global warming. As Raul Ombuo reports from Nairobi, the technologies offer both environmental and financial sustainability.
Febri Nasiachi and Musela Yose came up with a clean cooking solution 3 years ago. It's a 4-in-1 cook stove they named Jikotosha. The stove uses briquettes, liquefied petroleum gas, biogas, and sawdust as energy sources. This allows people in urban or rural areas who cannot afford certain types of fuel to have a variety of options.
Jikotosha, being multi-purpose, it is one fuel at a time. You cannot use both fuel at once. If you're using gas or LPG or biogas, once your gas runs out, you have to switch off the gas, then switch to another fuel, either the briquettes, charcoal briquettes, and you can use briquettes from any briquettes processed from waste materials, so that we don't lead to a case of deforestation that affects our environment. Even coconut husks can work.
Many Kenyans suffer from breathing indoor pollution caused by burning wood fuel. But the 4-in-1 stove has helped people like Alice Adongo, who has been using Jikotosha for the past 3 years.
I'm being affected with, I think, the carbon from Jiko. There was a time I fainted actually in the house since, actually it was my fault because they locked all the windows. And yeah, I had to be rushed to the hospital.
Since 2012, the Kenya Climate Innovation Center in Nairobi has supported 200 startups whose goal is climate change adaptation or mitigation. The center helps these startups by providing advice, training and monetary support.
I feel that there is a need for us to be able to look at issues that we Africans or Kenyans can be able to do that can be able to help us sort out the issues of climate change just in our own small way. The more we do it in our small way, the more we can be able to give big benefits in the long term.
These groups play an important role and should receive more money from governments, says John Recher of the Global Research Partnership Climate Change, Agriculture and Food Security.
The climate change challenge in Africa and the world is enormous. It should not be ignored. The governments of the world are supposed to dedicate more resources towards dealing with this problem of climate change. Specifically, making investments that can be capable of reducing the greenhouse gas emissions from continually going to the atmosphere.
Febri Nasiachi says with Jikotosha, they hope to tackle climate change one stove at a time. Raya Lombor for VOA News, Nairobi.
That's basically it.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Still ahead on Africa 54, young Kenyan warriors compete in the Maasai Olympics. But first, a look at Monday's headlines.
وسائل إعلام سورية رسمية أن الرئيس السوداني عمر حسن البشير أجرى محادثات مع نظيره السوري بشار الأسد في دمشق.
To make sure that we don't go back to square one. Look at my face. Do I look worried? So see, I'm not worried.
Right-wing groups organized a massive protest Sunday in Belgium against the United Nations Agreement on Global Migration. The deal, signed by more than 160 nations last week in Morocco, calls for safe, orderly and regular migration to avoid humanitarian crises of recent years. But many Europeans fear the pact could lead to an increase in immigration. VOA's Ladza Hook has the story.
Thousands of demonstrators marched outside major EU institutions in Brussels to protest the UN agreement setting up a common framework on the management of international migration flows. Sunday's protests in Brussels turned violent as demonstrators clashed with police. Some protesters say migrants from the Middle East, North Africa and Asia benefit from the social services that Europeans work hard to support.
We need to work until we are 67 years old. It's not normal. And they throw the money for the immigrants who will not serve our country. Then they don't respect our country, so why we do need to pay them?
Others don't like what they see as the changing face of their country.
The Europe is dead because of the politics, because of the European Union and this Commission building that signed this compact contract for the immigration. That means that the European people will be dead in our home. So no, we want our home back.
The United States and several other countries have formally notified the UN of their decision to pull out of the process. More and more countries in Europe have clamped down on migration in recent years, but some people see it as racism. Protesters from all over Italy gathered in Rome Saturday to condemn discrimination against migrants.
These last legislative choices in Italy generate more discrimination, distress, and difficulties. We believe that we can share our existence with all those who share this project of a better life for this world, whatever their color or origin.
Pope Francis on Sunday expressed support for the UN agreement.
Last week in Marrakesh, Morocco, the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration was approved, which aims to be a reference framework for the whole international community. I hope that this community, thanks to this instrument, will be able to act with responsibility, solidarity, and compassion toward those who, for various reasons, leave their own country, and I entrust this intention to your prayers.
Protests on migration coincide with demonstrations on socio-economic issues in France, Austria, Hungary, Canada, and elsewhere. Zlarica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Now, the future of healthcare in the United States is now murkier than ever after a federal judge ruled that former President Barack Obama's signature healthcare law is unconstitutional. As VOA's Michael Bowman reports, the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, is still in effect pending appeals that could reach the U.S. Supreme Court.
In fewer than 2 years, President Donald Trump has erased major portions of Barack Obama's legacy by pulling the United States out of the Iran nuclear deal and the Paris Climate Accord, and reversing a slew of executive orders on matters ranging from immigration to fuel economy standards. Now, a Republican push to terminate the health care law bearing Obama's name has succeeded in federal court.
It was a big ruling, a great ruling for our country.
A federal judge in Texas agreed with Republican state attorneys general that Obamacare, which uses subsidies and penalties to compel Americans to purchase private health care insurance, is unconstitutional. More than 10 million people have coverage under the law, which bars insurers from charging more to those with a pre-existing medical condition when they sign up. Democrats are furious with the judge's decision.
It has to be appealed for sure. But in the meantime, the Republicans will once again face the question, do you believe we should have health insurance accessible, affordable, and cover those with pre-existing conditions? That was the issue that decided, I believe, more than any other issue this last election.
Most Americans disapproved of Obamacare when it went into effect, but the law has been gaining in popularity, and polls showed many voters in last month's midterm elections wanted to preserve current health care protections. Republican congressional leaders have been largely silent on the court ruling, while some moderates in the party express apprehension.
The judge's ruling was far too sweeping. He could have taken a much more surgical approach and just struck down the individual mandate and kept the rest of the law intact. There are many good provisions of the law. Those should be retained.
But President Trump sees opportunity to craft a new law.
And if the Republicans and the Democrats get together, we are going to end up with incredible health care, which is the way it should have been from day one. And it's going to happen. It now has a chance to happen.
Republicans have long argued that no one should be forced to buy health care insurance, but urged tax breaks to make policies more affordable. Progressive Democrats, meanwhile, see an opportunity for something far more ambitious than Obamacare in the future: universal health care coverage paid for by the federal government. Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Desiree Kofi likes to find beauty in waste. The 24-year-old Ivorian artist spends his days combing the streets of Ivory Coast commercial capital Abidjan, looking for old and damaged electronics to use in his mixed media artwork. But it's not just about the art. Kofi says that he chose the medium to help try and reduce electronic waste. It makes up a sizable component of Abidjan's trash, with the cities reported to generate up to 1,500 tons of e-waste per year. It takes him 3 to 5 days to create an artwork, which he sells for a minimum of $173. And finally, eco-exercise is the latest trend for those conscious of both their health and the environment. London-based gym Terra Hill is built with recycled material and uses equipment that allows spinners to generate electricity for the center by pedaling. An eco-spin class can create up to 3,000 watts of power, which is enough electricity to run the lights at the gym for up to 12 hours. Meanwhile, the Swedish fitness craze of plogging, a combination of jogging and picking up litter, has become a popular weekly activity. Plogging is growing in popularity across Scandinavia and Germany. Vivo Barefoot hopes to bring the trend to London through its regular plogging events in the capital. And that's what's trending today. Now, the fourth edition of the Maasai Olympics were held at the Sidai-Oleng Wildlife Sanctuary at the base of Mount Kilimanjaro near Kenya's border with Tanzania. The biennial competition was first held in 2012 and features high jumping, foot racing, throwing of spears, and a traditional club known as Rungu, which Maasais are well known for. A group of influential Maasai leaders known as the Menyelayok, or Cultural Fathers, have partnered with the Big Life Foundation to provide an alternative to the traditional rite of passage by organizing the annual Maasai Olympics. For Kenyan middle distance runner David Rudisha, who holds the world record for 800 meters, the Maasai Olympics helps to ensure lions remain part of the country's future.
The reason why we are doing this Maasai Olympic is to create this and to synthesize about the wildlife conservation. And many years we have been having human-wildlife conflicts. So we want to conserve our environment by trying to encourage these young people to engage themselves in sports.
Experts say lion populations across Africa have declined by at least 43% in the last 2 decades. Tom Hill is co-founder of Big Life Foundation.
The killing of lions has dropped to nearly nothing in the areas where we work and where this program runs, and the lion population has increased dramatically in the last 10 or 12 years because of both the predator compensation program we have that compensates for lost animals to predators, and then the Olympics on top of that.
The government-run Kenya Wildlife Service says there are about 2,000 lions in the East African country, and the biggest threat to them and other carnivores is conflict with humans. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune into VOA's evening radio show Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching, and good night from Washington.
Welcome to English in a Minute. A lot of American English idioms refer to parts of the body.
Get off on the wrong foot.
Are Anna and Jonathan having trouble learning a dance? How did it go meeting your girlfriend's family?
Well, it was interesting. First, I was really late.
Oh, Jonathan.
Yeah, and then at dinner I spilled my water all over